Hello folks, this is Wager Detective here, 6:13 p.m. December 20th, 2025. We're going to get into this Green Bay Packers, Chicago Bears Saturday night game here. It's that time of year, games on Saturdays. If you like this video and you like the breakdown, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel. Also follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Wager Detective will be found on all those. Okay, so we're going to get into it. We look at the Bears versus the Packers, and I mean, it's the Packers have been running roughshod over the Bears for quite a while this year. They beat them this year already, 28-21. If you look at the Bears' home schedule versus the Packers over the last 5 games, the Packers are 5-0 at the Bears last 5. They are the average score of those games is plus 46.6 points per game. And the Packers are plus 19, 29, 38, 48, 58, 56, plus 57 over those 5. So they're winning by an average of a little bit more than 10 points a game the last 5 at Chicago. And like we said already, they beat them this year. LaFleur is, since December on the road, he is 6-4 in his last 10. Plus 6.4 points a game, an average score of 52.4 points per game there. He is 2-3 in his last 5 road games. December, plus 5.4 points per game between their plus minus for Green Bay, and the average score is 52.2. The road division games for Green Bay since 2021, they are 7-6 in their last 13, plus 2.46 points per game average, and the average score is 48.8 points per game. If we take a look at what the Bears are home since 2021, they're 4-7 in their last 11, minus 0.1 points per game. Average score is 41.2. They are 3-2 in their last 5 home division games in December, winning by an average of 7.8 points per game between their plus minus, and the average score is 38.2 points per game. But if we look at their home division since 2021, they're 2-10. In those games, 2 wins and 11 losses. Average score in those games is about 48.4 points per game. So there's a clear edge for Green Bay from those numbers right there, and from the past history. I know Chicago's been playing pretty good. It is revenge on their mind after losing this year already, 28-21. But I mean, look at all the years that Green Bay has lost. And then if you look at December games, I want to get into that too. We look here. We go from 2011, 0-1, 0-2, 0-3, 0-4, 1-4, 1-5, 1-6, 1-7. They're 1-8 versus the Green Bay Packers the last 9 games in the month of December. So all those factors are leaning towards Green Bay. Green Bay is, I still believe, a 1-point favorite here. If we take a look here, actually Green Bay's the underdog. I think this game should be closer to a pick'em from the numbers that I looked at. The total's sitting about pretty sharp, but I do feel that Green Bay should be the favorite here, probably by it should be at least a pick'em, if not better, based on SRS and SOS from what I've seen from these teams. So let's take a look here. Let's see what's going on here with Green Bay this year and what they've done. Okay, Green Bay, they're 9-4 on the year, coached by Matt LaFleur. He does turn it up in the month of December. Historically, we look at the injury report. We already know that Micah Parsons did not practice. He had a knee. I don't know if he's out this week, but we got a few players: Marshawn Lloyd, Josh Weil, John Williams. They're going to be out this week. If we look at Green Bay, what they've done, they're 13th in yards on offense, 2nd in turnovers, which is good. They've only had 10 turnovers on the year. They forced 13 turnovers for their opponent. They're 13th in first downs with 280, and they only let their opponents have 257 first downs. If we look at touchdowns, they have 24 passing touchdowns. That puts them at 7th best. They only given up 21 touchdowns on defense. defensive passing touchdowns. That puts them at 12th. And if we look at rushing touchdowns, they do have 16. That puts them at 7th in the NFL, and they've only given up 10. So they're very well balanced. They're top of the class in those categories as far as giving up passing and rushing touchdowns. Almost top 10 in both categories. If we look at what they do score 2.53 points per drive. That puts them at 6th best in the NFL. 9 plays per drive. 6 plays per drive puts them at 9th, and then 35 yards per drive puts them at 7th. So they're pretty efficient. They move the chains. We look at what they've done this year. They are coming off a loss last week at Denver, so now they're going from Denver to Chicago. And I just want to take a look at their games. If we look at here, they do have 24 passing touchdowns and 16 rushing. And then they're 23 for 29 on field goals this year. First downs are coming primarily through the pass. 157 passing first downs to 99 on the ground. And then third down conversion, 88 for 175. And they've turned the ball over only 10 times this year. So that's one of the better marks in the NFL. They've gone numerous games this year. 1, 2, 3, 4. They've gone 7 games this year without turning the ball over at all. They did turn the ball over 2 times last week against Denver, and I would imagine that cost them that game, in which they lost by 8 points. If we look at defensively, they've created 13 turnovers on defense, so they are +3 turnovers on the year against their opponents. And if we look at the first downs, they primarily give up their first downs through the pass instead of the ground. Field goals, teams have scored 21 field goals out of 25 attempts, which is pretty solid. And if we look at how they get scored on Green Bay, they have 21 passing touchdowns against them, and then only 10 rushing touchdowns. They've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games without having a rushing touchdown scored on them, which is pretty good. If they could do that against Chicago, I think they got a good shot at winning this game, because Chicago does rely primarily on Caleb Williams, but when they get into their short down packages, they could shut them down there and not enforce Green Bay to punt the ball. It's going to be to their advantage, obviously. Green Bay has scored 348 points, right? And their opponents have scored 281, so that's a pretty big difference there as far as their plus minus there. And if we look at what they've done, they've played a pretty tough schedule. I don't know how tough it has been, minus 1.64 on the SOS. If we look at their last few weeks, Denver, Chicago, Detroit, Minnesota, Giants, and Philadelphia, all pretty solid teams. So they're in rhythm, in form, and they are coming off the loss. And I kind of like that for Green Bay. They're going to be fired up and motivated here to try to stay within striking distance of the Bears. If we look at the division here, it is a logjam at the top here. The Bears, Packers, and Lions all fighting for the division, tightly contested. If the Bears win this game, you could pretty much wrap up the division for them with only 3 games remaining. So Green Bay is going to be up for this one, but it's going to be tough sledding against the Chicago team in Chicago. So it should be make for a really great game here. If we look at statistics, we look at Green Bay again, 13th in yards, 13th in first downs. If we look at what they do on third downs, they are number 1 in the NFL in third down conversions at 50%. They can convert 50% of their first downs, and then they're 7th in red zone touchdown percentage at puts them 7th in the NFL. 65% of the time they're converting their red zone opportunities into touchdowns. If we look at who's doing it, Josh Jacobs is doing it on the ground. He does have 13 rushing touchdowns. And then rushing the ball, that is their main guy there. But if you look at receiving, they do have a bevy of guys that can catch the ball. 3 guys with 5+ touchdowns: Romeo Dubs, Tucker Kraft, and Christian Watson, all contributing with 5+ touchdowns. And then you got a couple guys in there. You got Devontae and Wicks, Jaden Reed, Bo Melton, all chipping in. They do have 40 touchdowns from scrimmage, primarily by Josh Jacobs, and Dubs, Kraft, and Watson and Wilson following lead there. Kicking and punt returns, nothing to glean here from these guys. Kicking, Brandon McManus. Okay, he's 3 for 7 from 40 to 49, and 3 from 5 from 50+. He is 28 from 29 for extra points made. He has 13 touchbacks on the year, 22.4% of his touchbacks out of 58 kickoffs have been for touchbacks. Punting, Daniel Whelan, 41 punts, 51.3 yards per punt. 31.7% of his punts landing inside the 20. Defensively, Green Bay does have 7 interceptions on the year, 7 forced fumbles, 14 fumble recoveries, 33 sacks, 64 tackles for loss, and 90 quarterback hits. They're not really, those numbers really don't stand out to me, which shifts the momentum, considering Green Bay has already beat Chicago. The narrative is, Green Bay owns Chicago and that they could probably do it again, but why is Chicago favored by 1.5 here? You would think public would be on Green Bay, especially since they lost last week, and that they need this game. But if you've watched Chicago and Green Bay, they seem to be on different trajectories in their path this year. If we look at the Vegas lines, we look at Green Bay on the road this year. They did have the loss at Cleveland, where they lost 13-10, and they followed that up next week by tying the Dallas Cowboys. And then they went on the road and beat Arizona by 4, 27-23. They did beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, 35-25. And then the Giants, they won the game, but they pushed as a favorite there, -7. And then they went to Detroit and won that game by 7, 31-24. And then beat Chicago at home, covering that spread. So in their last 4 games, they have covered the spread. 2 of them as a favorite. And then as a dog, they won outright against Detroit in Detroit. But then they lost to Denver last year as a 1-point favorite. And they didn't cover the spread there, obviously. They lost the game. So as a dog this year, they are 1-0. And that was against Detroit. So division game there. Also keep in mind that Chicago has lost their 2 division home games this year already. Obviously, one of them being Green Bay. So let's take a look at Chicago. They're having a fantastic year here. Coached by Ben Johnson, former offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions. And we look what they've done this year. They've had a weaker schedule than Green Bay, and their SRS is a little weaker than the Packers. If we look at them, they're 5th in the league in passing yards, better than Green Bay. They only have 10 turnovers themselves. That puts them at 2nd best in the NFL on offense. They have 296 first downs, puts them at 7th in the NFL. And then they do have 22 passing touchdowns, puts them at 15th, but they give up 27 passing touchdowns, which is not really good. Rushing, they've only given up 12 rushing touchdowns. They do have 17 on the ground, puts them at 6th. So they're a balanced attack as far as what they do. They're a little bit better on the ground as far as getting the ball in the end zone, even though they do have more passing touchdowns. But they're pretty balanced attack. They do have 123 first downs, and they score 2.29 yards per drive, which is a little less than Green Bay, which is pushing me towards the over in this game from the cap already. If we look at what they've done, Chicago is coming off 2 road wins. They beat Philadelphia on Thanksgiving and then followed that up. They're coming off a 1-1 road trip where they beat Philadelphia on Thanksgiving and then they lost to Green Bay the following week. And then last week at home, when they came home after the Green Bay loss, they did beat the Browns 31-3. Let's see here. They do have 10 turnovers in the year. Like I said, that does put them in good company. They're right there with Green Bay. They don't turn the ball over a lot. They have gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games this year without turning the ball over. But if you look at them defensively, they have forced 30 turnovers from their opponents this year, which is the clear-cut difference between them and Green Bay in this game. Green Bay gets turnovers, but not like this. Chicago is number 1 in the NFL in creating turnovers. They have 3 games this year, or actually 4 games, where they force their opponents into 3+ turnovers. If we look, and they're primarily coming from interceptions. They have 21 interceptions on the year. So again, if you look at them, how did they primarily do it? Passing, they do have 22 touchdowns in the air and then 17 on the ground. They've only gone 2 games this year without scoring a rushing touchdown. And then passing touchdowns, they've gone 3 games without having a passing touchdown as well. They do, they're averaging 5.58 yards per play on the year. And then they're pretty balanced as far as how they get their first downs compared to Green Bay. They do have 154 passing first downs to 123 rushing. And they do have 296 first downs, which is pretty solid. Last 2 weeks, they're averaging 20. They've had 21 first downs in back-to-back weeks, which is pretty solid. Defensively, how teams are scoring on them. They've given up 27 passing touchdowns, but last week they didn't give up any to Cleveland. I mean, it is Cleveland. They have gone 2 games this year without giving up a passing touchdown. Cleveland and the Giants, 2 bottom tier teams in the NFL. And then as far as giving up first downs, they primarily give up the Chicago primarily gives up the first down through the passing attack, 146-94 on the ground for their opponents. Okay, and they do create turnovers, as we said. We look at the stats here for them. Chicago, they're 5th in the NFL in third down conversions, converting 44% of the time. So they're right there with Chicago. Both these teams do move the chains. And they're not bad defensively. They only give up 38% third down conversions to their opponents. They're 15th in the NFL, the Bears, in red zone touchdowns, scoring 59% of the time. They have 29 touchdowns and 49 red zone attempts. But they do give up touchdowns on the defensive side. They've given up 26 out of 43 red zone attempts to their opponents. Caleb Williams having a fantastic year, 21 touchdowns to only 6 interceptions. He's averaging about 225 yards a game. And he does have 5 fourth-quarter comebacks, which is number 1 in the NFL, and he has 5 game-winning drives. So if the game is close, it's down the wire, he can bring this team back to win the game. If we look at kicking and punt returns, nothing really much to glean there. Kicking, Cairo Santos is 21-26, 3 from 5 for 50, and 8 from 10 from 40-49. He is 33-33 on extra points, which is great. 65 kickoffs, 21% of those landing inside the 20. If we look at punting, Torrey Taylor, 47.8 yards per punt, and then 36% of his kicks are landing inside the 20-yard line. If we look at defensively, Kevin Byard leads the NFL, 6 interceptions. And then you got Nashawn Wright right behind him with 5, and then Tremont Edmonds with 4. They are a very opportunistic secondary. You got Caleb Williams, has recovered 5, I guess, of his own fumbles. And then if we look at sacks, they do have 29 on the year, 59 tackles for loss, and 70 quarterback hits. So neither one of these defenses are necessarily getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback. I do expect there to be points in this game tonight. If we look at the Vegas lines, I don't know how many times they've been favored this year, but as a favorite, they are 4-1, the Bears, and they're 7-7 to the over and under. They have been alternating overs and under over the last 4 weeks, over, under, as you see there from the Pittsburgh game. I do expect this game to be some points. I know they scored 49 just a couple weeks ago. They just seen each other, which would make you think this game would probably go under. But based off history and what's going on, I mean, if I look at everything involved here, you would think that this game would be more closer to a pick 'em. I mean, Green Bay is 5-0, their last 5 at Chicago. They are Green Bay under LaFleur, 6-4 last 10 road December games since 2021, and they're 7-6 last 13 road division for Green Bay, plus 2.46. But if you look at Chicago, like I said, they are in their last 5. They're 3-2 in their last home December games, plus 7.8 in that category. And if we look at, if you break it down, I trust Caleb Williams. He does know how to bring his team back on late game drives. They do need. I don't know if Chicago's going to fold here. I'm torn on this game because it really is a close game if you look at SRS. But Green Bay has played a tougher schedule. They are coming off the loss in Denver, a game where they turned the ball over. And I think in a game like this, if I'm getting Green Bay getting plus 1.5, I have no choice but to, from the way I started this video, to lean their way. I really do think Chicago is a team of the future, and they're going to be a hell of a team going forward, and they're going to make the playoffs. I just think this game, I think LaFleur has a little bit too much experience, and I would probably like Green Bay. I would probably like Chicago more if Green Bay lost last week or won last week in Denver, but they are coming off a road loss. And back-to-back road games, historically, from what I've seen in games that I've capped, if you got a good team that is solid, that is well coached, that second game back-to-back, I'm catching 1.5. I got to lean with Green Bay here. I know it's it could be tricky, and I know Chicago's played great, but I think if Green Bay doesn't turn the ball over, which is Chicago's specialty, and we know Green Bay leads the league in offense and not turning the ball over, and if they can do that here against Chicago, I do believe that they can win this game and cover that spread at plus 1.5. So that's going to be my lean here. I do like Green Bay plus the 1.5. The fact that they did just play 2 weeks ago makes me think that they scored 49 in that game. This game could be a little bit more nip and tuck, a little bit more defense, a little bit more maybe stalled drives between the two teams. So I would lean to the under there. And Green Bay is coming off that high-scoring game at Denver. I would imagine the tempo might slow up a little bit here. It is a divisional game. 45.5 is right on the spot. That line is absolutely super sharp. But I would take the under there. And at 45.5, you could still get a 24-21 game and go over by a half point. So that's going to be my call here at 24 minutes. Wager Detective is going to call Green Bay plus the 1.5 money line and under 45.5. Thank you for tuning in. Live from Atlantic City, December 20th, 2025. Click the like button and subscribe, and follow me on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. I'll talk to you soon.